What's up, guys? Rick from DFS On Demand here with a preview for the Arnold Palmer Invitational. But before we jump into that, a few quick housekeeping items. Many of you have asked for this, and I finally given in. I now have a private Slack channel for DFS On Demand. So if you're not familiar with Slack, it's a communication tool where we discuss strategy, share different charts. I allow the Slack team to beta test some of my new tools that I'm working on. If you're interested in joining that, it is available as a subscription or an add-on to a subscription on dfsondemand.com, which is my site, of course. I will also sell out a little bit here. If you'd like to potentially win a week's subscription to DFS On Demand, I'll include a Slack membership. Just like the video, please subscribe if you haven't already. That always helps me out. And then leave a comment below. I'll draw one each week and give you a week's worth to DFS On Demand. We'll include the Slack channel access so that you can join the conversation. But outside of that, you're more than welcome to join us. It's been a lot of fun so far early in the first week or so that I've had it up. So that's the quick announcement. We'll do a little giveaway each week, and let's get on to the Arnold Palmer Invitational. All right. Arnold Palmer Invitational at Bay Hill. Fun little tournament. The stars come out for this. Remember, it is an invitational, so this is not a full field event. Only 122 in the field this week, so your cut-made percentages might be a little bit different. Keep that in mind. Here's the cheat sheet for this week. Remember, I think it was last week we started showing worldwide recent form. So let's go through and see if we can find any players who have been really hot recently across the globe. The first guy that stands out, of course, and I guess I shouldn't say he's been super hot, but it's Brooks here, coming off a second place at the Honda, a disappointing 27th at the WGC. But obviously all the game in the world. We were on Brooks in a big way last week. Unfortunately, he didn't get the win, but he was able to cash a lot of our single entry lineups, our GPP lineups. Really great week for Brooks, and we were on it. We had him in a one and done pool, so hopefully you guys were joining in there as well. Let's see, Charles Schwartzel, and I think when we get down to Schwartzel, I might be wrong on this. I don't know what his course history is. We'll have to scroll down a little bit, but coming off a 16th at the Honda and a 6th at the Puerto Rico Championship, obviously this is a much tougher field than both of those, so I'm probably not going to be fooled by this showing. I will probably pass on Schwartzel, but I've already seen that there's some level of support across the industry on Charles. I don't think I will be one of those guys necessarily. The one guy that I do think is interesting, and actually let's just scroll down here. Let's just scroll down to the meat of this cheat sheet here and talk about the pricing and talk about some of these top tier guys. The one that I think is probably most interesting, right? This doesn't mean he's good, doesn't mean he's bad. It means he's interesting, is Bryson. So Bryson's $9,700. He is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, now 6th highest priced golfer because Tiger Woods has withdrawn. And outside of the really, really bad week that he had last time he teed it up, which was a 56th at the WGC, remember there was only 74 players in that field, very small field, no cut, very poor finish. He's been awesome. 15th at the Genesis, 6th in Saudi Arabia. He won the Dubai Desert Classic, 10th at the Sony, and finished 2nd here at Bay Hill last year. Where is he? Right here. 2nd in 2018, 27th in 2016. Those are the only 2 times he has played Bay Hill, 2 top 25 finishes. So obviously that's awesome. You get a couple other kind of course horses, right? I mean, Leishman's sitting out here as well. And I kind of put Leishman and DeChambeau in the same bucket where last time you saw them, they stunk. Yeah, like that's a pretty fair assessment. Leishman at WGC was even worse than Bryson was. I think he finished 64th. It was just an absolute ejection. He was basically dead last for, dead last of all the guys, who weren't, these WGCs, you get like the 200th player in the world because, based on your nationality and where the invites come from. So you get some really poor players in the field. Believe it or not, that's very top heavy. And then you get some really poor guys. Leishman was almost dead last. So the fact that he and Bryson are both similarly brutal, but outside, if you throw away Mexico, have been playing well, and then have great course history. So remember, Leishman won this 2 years ago, finished 7th last year, had another 3rd place finish in 2011. I think there are going to be opportunities to buy a bit low, right? If you're looking for a few jaded owners who might go and grab Fowler, who's played well, Rory, who's red hot and always popular, Justin Rose, Koepka, Day, they're all here. These are the 2 guys that probably get overlooked the most, or at least I assume so early in the week as we're talking about this. I really wish I had this research in front of me. I don't. But at one time in the past couple of months, I went and looked at which tournaments have the most volatile results, and I'll try to do this again before the week starts. So follow me on Twitter if you want to see this. I'll try to release it, but I believe Bay Hill was one of the most consistent tournaments in terms of finishes. So I think Torrey Pines was pretty volatile, where like Jason Day has won it and then he's missed the cut like 3 times. Like, it can be very volatile. If you look at this, there's a ton of horses here. So let's scroll up a little bit. The one guy we'll save for a second. I think Molinari is in an excellent spot here at $9,000. You have Henrik Stenson with a lot of great course history. He has 1, 2, 3, 4 top 5s in the last 5 times he's teed it up. 5 top 10s in the last 6 years, 6 top 15s in the last 7 years, playing absolutely brutal right now. But again, course history is there. Zach Johnson, we'll talk more about him in a second, at $7,700. I don't know what his ownership is going to be, but I'm probably going to fall victim to Zach Johnson this week. You also get guys like, I mean, even if you throw out 1 year, Affy Barnrat, 2 6th place finishes. Kevin Na has 4 top 15s in the last, I don't know, what's that, 7 or 8 times he's played it. There's just a lot of guys who have really elite course history, and you don't see that every single week. Bay Hill traditionally plays, very similarly or very similar every year, and it tends to really find the same results from some of these guys. So let's move on and talk about them in depth a little bit more. I actually want to jump to the course stats here for a second. And I want to talk about Bay Hill. I know that it says Honda Classic up here in the top left-hand corner. I just forgot to change it. The stats are correct. You can see the salaries are correct. Rory is $11,400. This is actually Bay Hill. I will have changed this by the time the video publishes, so don't tweet me and say that it says Honda Classic at the top. All right, so what was really interesting here about Bay Hill is birdie or better did not show up as one of the highest correlated stats, which is shocking. It almost always does. What it did show up as the top 5 highest correlated stats were strokes gained total, SDFA, scoring average, strokes gained tee to green, and strokes gained approach. What that tells me is the best players win here. And that's true, right? We've seen Tiger win here a bunch. Rory wins here. Like this, it's rare outside of, I guess, Matt Every when he won it back to back to get some no name, I suppose is the best way to put it, right? Like the cream really does rise to the top here. And it's not just wins. This is correlated to DraftKings scoring. So the fact that we don't have birdie or better, the fact that we have these really high level, like how good you are stats, strokes gained total, SDFA, scoring average, strokes gained tee to green. That is like literally who the best players in the world are. So that was a little bit surprising. And then when you look at the highest ranked stats, 4 of the 5, which are all top 5 stats for the courses on the PGA Tour, are approach stats. The greens in regulation from 125 to 150 at Bay Hill. It's the 3rd most important. Bay Hill is a course where greens in regulation from 125 to 150 is the 3rd most important, is the way to read this. Then there's putts from 15 to 20, which can be a little bit noisy, but I left it in here just to show you. And then it's 3 straight approach stats. Strokes gained approach. Approach is under 100 yards, and then greens in regulation from 150 to 175. Those were the highest ranked in terms of correlation stats for Bay Hill. So let's talk through these guys. We need studs. Let's talk strokes gained total. Rory and Justin Rose head and shoulders above the rest of the field. A little bit of value here is Lucas Glover playing, excellent over the course of the last month. Only $8,200. He's certainly outclassed in this field, but has competed each and every week. The rest of the top 5 or 6 is, Jason Day, Fowler, Matsuyama. It's the best players in the world. And then you get a little more value with Matt Every, who has won here twice and won us a lot of money in the a couple weeks ago when we played him, and he was like first round leader, and then I forget what he did, finished top 5, I think. And then Gooch is still on here as well, $6,800. He's played well for us. Let's do SDFA. Again, Rosie leads the way here. Day, Rory. Again, you're going to get the best players in the world here. Lucas Glover pops off. Same names. So let's move over to strokes gained approach, because this is where I think things start to get a little bit more interesting, and this is where you're going to find a lot of that value. The world is begging us to get back on Taylor Gooch. Had 2 top 5 finishes. Then he went, and I think he missed 2 straight cuts, got it back together. I think he ended up finishing like 40th last week, but made enough birdies to keep us relevant. I had him in a lot of lineups. Then we're gonna find out how good Jason Kokrak is. Like, Kokrak has been really popular across the industry. He's been, piling up the top 20s. My problem, unfortunately, is he's not making enough birdies. He's hanging on there. He's a little bit dependent on his finishing position, but if you're looking for strokes gained approach, 3rd best in this field. Then you get guys like Chesson Hadley, Brooks Koepka, Mark Leishman. Hideki was number 2 on that list. Didn't want to jump over him there. But you can see, like, this is a really you need to get as many of these studs in this field as you can, and then sprinkle some of these value plays in. And I have a feeling that as we continue to go through this, Gooch is going to continue to pop up on my list. This one's a little bit noisy, so I'm not super thrilled about using it, but let's run through it very quickly. It's greens in regulation from 125 to 150. Obviously, some guys have hit a lot more shots from this range than others, which is why I think this can be a little bit noisy, but all the best players in the field in this stat are like under $8,000. Like, literally the top 20 guys are under $8,000. JJ Spawn, Matt Wallace, Stuart Sink, Aaron Baddeley, Brian Harmon all lead the way. The first stud on this list, the first guy over 9,000, is actually 11,400. It's Rory. He's probably like 20th on this list. Putts over 15 to 20 feet again, between 15 and 20 feet again. Very, very noisy because it's related to sample size. But top 5 are Sink, Affy Barnrat, DA Points, Ian Poulter, and Pat Perez. I don't think that's particularly worth it, so we're gonna just kind of skip it. And then kind of the same thing for the last 2 for proximity under 100 yards of 150 to 175. I left them in here, but I think they're a little bit noisy. Let's jump over to this, which I think is actually a better representation of it, which is the strokes gained tool. And if we just want to look at straight strokes gained approach versus their salary, right? The guys that you want are kind of bottom right-hand side of each one of their tiers here. So, for example, if Tiger was playing, you probably would have opted for Rose because he's cheaper, basically in a similar spot, strokes gained. If you're looking between Jason Day and Ricky Fowler, Jason Day basically the same as Fowler here in terms of strokes gained, both in the 5.2 range, 5.1, 5.2 range, and Jason Day is what, $500 cheaper? Yeah, $500 cheaper. Hideki stands out a little bit here, right? Really, really gaining a lot of strokes, 5.99 per tournament. He's clocking it at only $9,300. Here's Kokrak, and here is, I believe that's Lucas Glover. Those are your values right here. Then you get the guys on the outside who we've played a lot in recent weeks. It's Siwoo Kim, it's Michael Thompson, it's Nate Lashley, it's Taylor Gooch. Those are the guys that go down the list here, but that's in total. If we go strictly by approach, things get a little bit more interesting. Tiger's out this week, so disregard that. But here's where you get Koepka as a standout. Mark Leishman, who I think is, again, I'm probably going to convince myself that he's going to end up being a pretty good GPP play if we can get a little bit of a low number on him with being, a past champion, 2 top 7s finishes in the last 2 years. Outside of the last time he teed it up, he's been really, really good. Keegan, and again, Kokrak pop up, and then Nate Lashley. Let's scroll down here because this is a new tool that I love, and it's basically just showing round by round how these guys are doing. And I think there's at least 2 guys we really need to talk about here. One I mentioned was Francesco. Let's see if we can find what he's been up to recently. I only have his, this is since the start of 2019. So he has actually lost strokes on approach in 3 of the 4 Century Tournament of Champions rounds. And then he's kind of just been mediocre a handful of other times. This is very uncharacteristic of Molinari. He is a long-term great iron player. I think this probably starts to turn around sooner rather than later. And for only $9,000 on a course that is going to rely heavily on approach shots, I think this is a pretty good value. And then Zach Johnson, who has great course history here. Such an outlier at Honda for me. Okay, so always awesome approach game. He lost strokes, Saturday and Sunday at the Honda, which are basically, he was very minimal loser once at the Waste Management and once at the Desert Classic, but routinely gains 1.5 to 2, sometimes more strokes per round on the field in approach. But here was what was super interesting. He lost, and he has been losing strokes putting. Lost strokes putting, and in a big way, all 4 rounds at the Honda. That makes 5 big losing rounds in a row, 6 overall, 7 out of 8. Like, he's just not putted well. But I'll have to go back and I'll see if I can pull his numbers. He is obviously a much better putter than losing 2.5 strokes around. Not many guys can pull that off, Keegan. But these are the types of situations that I kind of want to be buying on. So let me see if I can actually find this here. Here we go. Here are the coldest players in the field, right? So coldest players in the field putting. Zach Johnson, 3.6 strokes below his long-term average. Joel Dahman, same thing. Leishman and Bryson. These would be good buy low candidates because putting is so volatile. Guys get hot. And honestly, these guys are way better putters than what this is actually showing. So yes, I would love to buy Zach Johnson, Mark Leishman, Bryson in these spots because I like this can't stay like this forever. Guys who are putting over their heads, Poulter, Daniel Berger, Bill Haas, Bubba, these guys are all way over their heads right now. Approach-wise, Molinari actually technically is one of the hotter approach players. This actually goes back a little bit further than my chart below, so that's why he kind of stands out here. But, let's go over to strokes gained and kind of see some of these buy low or sell high candidates. Wouldn't touch VJ with a 20-foot pole, right? I mean, I don't even think he's in the field this week. But this is such a good tool to try to find situations where we can buy low, or guys who just their putting hasn't been going in a specific way, and then try to take advantage elsewhere. All right, let's get back here and do the odds. And actually, VJ is in this field, so that's why he showed up on that other tool. Though I only show guys that are actually in the field. So let's look at the win probabilities here, and if there's any value. According to Vegas, according to the odds, according to expected win percentage, Justin Rose actually leads the way here. 12.7%. He's only 10,700 compared to Rory's 11.4. So in theory, you get a value on the guy who's expected to win the tournament most often, which would be Justin Rose. Other values, if you go by these win percentages, actually Brooks would probably be not a good play because he only has a 3% chance to win this when his peers have about 5%. Tommy Fleetwood would be a value at 9,100. He has about a 4.1% chance to win this golf tournament, whereas peers are much more in the 2.5-2% range. A little bump to Terrell Hatton there at $8,700. Little bump to Ian Poulter at $8,000. He's got about a 2 times the chance to win as someone like Bubba or Luke List in similar price ranges here. Zach Johnson, Vegas indicates is a value. Rafa Cabrera Bello, Vegas would indicate is a value. The rest of this is pretty good. Gooch, I mean, the numbers are so small here, but Gooch with a 0.5% chance is 2 to 4 times better than his peers at, $6,800. I mean, the fact that Gucci even had a top 25 last year, as this video continues, I'm going to talk myself into playing so much Taylor Gooch. It's going to be ugly. So there you go. So there's some pretty good values there. I hope you enjoyed that. Some new tools, some new cool things. I'm also working on a database that is going to be compiling all the strokes gained data for like the last, I don't know, let's start with 5 years or so and see how far we can go back. It's going to take me a while, but I'm compiling that. I've got that on the way. Then you can be able to filter different tournaments, different years, whatever you want. I don't care. It's up to you. So that's on the way. And then again, if you want to join the Slack channel, where we're doing a lot of discussion, I'm throwing in things that we're not talking about here. Just as I go through my process, I throw up charts or visuals or whatever it might be, or I build new tools and I say, hey, you guys want to try this out? Let me know what you think. It's really good discussion thus far. It's only been around for a week or so. Couple ways you can do it. You can go to DFS On Demand. You can add it. It's a subscription. You can add it to a monthly, weekly, whatever subscription. Or if you like the video, subscribe, leave a comment below. I'll pick somebody each week for weekly access to DFS On Demand, and it will include Slack access so you can come chat with us. It's been a lot of fun so far, and looking forward to continuing it as we ramp up for the rest of the majors are starting. This is a really good stretch of golf right now. So there you go. Let me know what you think. Tweet me. It's at DFS On Demand, or leave a comment below. I will talk to you guys soon. Good luck.